you can kind of tell. You can kind of tell. And within the first 5 minutes of meeting something, it's like, oh man, if you want it, it means by default that reality already exists. All you need to do is, that's a very empowering way to think about it. Why? Because you chose it. And that is always going to lead you to the exact circumstance that's going to unlock it all. And this is actually the basis of astrology. This is the lifetime that I need right now because it's going to give me all of the opportunities and all of the situations that will allow me to evolve. You guys, I've been yapping for a hot minute. Hello, besties, and welcome to another episode of Limitless with Nadia. I know it's been a little while. I'm so sorry, but I am back for a solo episode, which I actually haven't done in quite a while. I've had guests for the last few episodes, but I have a lot of things that I have been thinking about lately that I just want to share with you guys. And I've been seeing all of your comments and all of your DMs asking me to get more into the self-help content again. If you follow me on Instagram, you know I've kind of been a little quiet on that side because I think as a content creator, there's times where you're kind of immersed in life and you're learning the lessons and then you're able to kind of emerge and talk them through. So that's what I'm ready to do with you guys here today. I've been referring to myself as Mother Pooski lately. So that's kind of what we're going to go with. Mother Pooski's here and she's ready to rumble. So as you guys know, my whole journey getting into content creation was about what? Manifestation and how to create a life that you love. And fast forward, it's been like 3 years now. And I was reflecting on this. I actually just came back from a trip to Paris and London for Fashion Week. I was able to take my mom with me to Paris we were able to go and watch this fashion show together. And it was just the best thing ever. And I was really sitting and thinking and reflecting on how many pieces of my life I am so grateful to have the freedom in a sense that you guys already know I create my own schedule. I'm my own boss. I do my own thing. I only do things that I want to do and I never have to do anything that I don't want to do. If I want to, book a trip to Paris with my mom and fly her out, I'm able to do that. I have the finances to be able to do it. Again, the schedule to be able to do it. I know that's a lot. Like a lot of you guys reach out to me all the time and you're like, I really feel like I'm so stuck in my current circumstances. Maybe it's a 9-to-5 that's just really draining you, or maybe it's a relationship that's keeping you stuck. And I know that feeling. I know what that's like to be in a position where you are craving something more, but you feel like your hands are tied and you just can't do it. And so that's why I'm here, is to talk to you guys about all the little things that are, your brain's way of keeping you complacent. You need to unlearn all the myths that are keeping you stuck, because at the end of the day, you guys know this is literally the first viral video I ever created. And it's about how being delusional actually works. Because when you are operating within the constructs of what you have already seen and experienced before, by default, that means that you are going to keep going in that direction and you're not going to be able to expand and create something completely different that you've never experienced before. So the number one thing I want you guys to remember and to be aware of is that your life is literally a blank canvas. You create whatever you want. You could be creating things that you don't want, but you could also be creating things that you do want. And the only difference between those two things is how you're using your energy and how you're directing your energy. And so a really big part of this conversation is about how to break out of this matrix, how to break out of the conditioning that a lot of us were raised in. And I'll give you a really simple example of this, right? Let's say that you really want to have this career, maybe as a content creator, you want to be doing social media. I know not all of you are in that realm, but if you are, we'll just use that as the example, right? So you're wanting to get more into social media, but you're afraid to actually do it because you're not sure how you're going to get there. You're not sure what steps you're going to need to do to be able to get to that point. The reason why you're thinking you need to know all those answers is because from a very young age, a lot of us were taught that, okay, what do you want to do with your life? Where are you going to go to school? What are you going to study? How is that going to get you a paid job? What position are you going after? So we've all literally been programmed, especially if you're somebody that's American. I know a lot of you guys are not actually based in America. There's a lot of you in Europe and, the Middle East, everywhere. But generally speaking, most of us, including you, have grown up with a certain conditioning that makes you feel like it's not safe to not know those answers and pursue something anyways. So that's the number one thing, right? Is you have to really be mindful of, where is my brain creating these limitations because of what I've been taught growing up, right? A lot of you guys know my story of how I went from working my 9-to-5 job to becoming a freelance social media content creator where I just get to do whatever I want. At the time, before I got into all this, and actually, I think we probably have a lot of new listeners here because it's been a little while since I've kind of really done a reintroduction on who I am and how I got here. But for those of you who don't know, before I became a coach, a content creator, doing social media full time, what I was doing was I had gotten I got my bachelor's in psychology because my whole thing was I wanted to be a therapist, right? Why? Because I have always been the kind of person that's like the advice friend that people come to because they want help with how to improve their life or how to get through something. And so I always knew that I want to be in a position where I can sit down with somebody and talk to them and really be able to work them through the issues that they're going through. And so because of the environment that I was raised in, where it's not really safe to pursue something unless you know exactly how it's going to happen, in my mind, I'm like, all right, I'm going to get my bachelor's in psychology. I'm going to get my master's as a clinical mental health counselor. I'm going to do the residency. I'm going to do the whole nine, right? And that's what I was doing at the time, even though I was not happy doing that at all. It was so draining. And I'm sure a lot of you know the feeling, right? Of you're having to go to school, you're having to write these papers, do all these things that you're like, oh, I don't want to do it, but I'm only doing it as a means to an end. And that's one thing I want you guys to be very mindful of. I want you to like take a step back and zoom out and look at your life and ask yourself the question of what am I doing that's just a means to an end? I was talking to a coaching client yesterday who's like, I'm applying for all these new jobs and new roles to advance myself in my career because I want to be able to get to this position one day. Even though she hated the whole process of having to work these jobs and apply for these jobs, she was doing it anyway as a means to an end. So look at your life and pay attention to all the things that you're doing that are just a means to an end. And the reason why I'm talking about that is because when you are pursuing something because you think it's going to get you to what you really want, you're actually missing the whole point, which is that if you just do the things that you want to do and follow the things that do feel good to you, they will inevitably lead you to exactly where you're supposed to be, and it's all going to work out, right? So again, going back to my story of I was working a 9-to-5 job as a substance abuse counselor while I was doing my master's. I was in a lot of debt because I wasn't making a lot of money. I was stressed out. I was having to overwork myself, working these overnight shifts at the detox center and also having to do my master's degree at the same time. And so again, the only reason I was doing those things is because, all right, this is the only way I'll be able to do what I want, which is help people, be a therapist, right? This is when I got fired from my job for posting social media videos that ended up going so viral that the director of my job actually saw it and they were like, you gotta go, right? And so I look back at that and I'm always grateful for it because I'm like, that was the universe literally giving me an out and being like, you can do what you want to do now. We've taken away the one thing that's actually keeping you stuck. Now you have all this free space. And so what ended up happening was I started living by the rule of I'm just going to do what I want to do. I'm just going to follow what feels good, even if I don't know exactly where it's going to lead or if it's going to get me to where I want. And what I knew at the time was that I want to have the freedom. I want to be able to live the life that I want and not have to answer to anybody else. I want to be able to make a ton of money and not have to, make a budget or worry about where am I going to, how am I going to pay rent or whatever. And so going into it that way, what I did was I just started making videos about, you guys, a lot of you might remember, breaking the habit of being yourself. I started reading books about manifestation, law of attraction, spirituality, and it really inspired me to create these changes in my life, but it also lit me up to talk about these things. So I made videos talking about it for social media. A lot of those videos blew up, and I got comments from you guys being like, hey, do you offer coaching for this kind of thing? I would love to pay you to help me with it. Boom. Lightning bolt. I was like, oh my God, I could totally become a coach. I don't have to get certified. I don't really have to, pursue a formal education for it. I can literally just start a coaching business and start seeing clients right now. And that's exactly what I did. All the pieces came together for me to be able to actually create that, right? And so this is going back to the original point. You don't have to know exactly how you're going to go from where you are now to where you want to go. If you want it, it means by default that reality already exists. All you need to do is follow what you are intuitively feeling pulled into doing. And that is always going to lead you to the exact circumstance that's going to unlock it all for you. Okay. I'm going on my phone right now because I have some bullets that I've written for you guys that I want to make sure I don't forget to include. So again, number one, you can become anybody you want, which means you can create any life you want because personality and energetic output is not unchanging. Everything is malleable and life is like a blank canvas. Your goal should be to get in tune with who you really are so you know what you really desire so you can become that artist and paint that picture. So that's kind of what I was explaining, right? A lot of people think, and they make the mistake of assuming that you can't change your circumstances radically. It's going to take this big, huge, long, elaborate plan that you're going to have to know every step of. That's really not true. You create your reality with what? Based on the things that you're feeling and the things that you're thinking over and over and over, right? Law of attraction, law of assumption. Your personality is just an accumulation of your energetic output, which means every single day you wake up, you're having certain reactions to things, you're thinking certain thoughts, and it's usually very repetitive. They've been stuck on a cycle. If you interrupt that cycle, right, and you change the energy that you're putting out every day, then you're also going to be changing the way that your reality comes out, right? And so this is the point. Any reality you want to create, all it takes is you becoming internally the person that is already living that life, and then the outer reality will then start to match, right? It's really not that hard. Again, with what I just read off of my phone, you only have to become the artist, the kind of artist that is able to paint that picture, and then you're good, right? And what does that mean? It means creating an identity for yourself or a personality for yourself that is aligned with the life that you want to create. For example, when I was starting my business as a social media like freelancer, right? I had no experience building a business. I had no experience turning or becoming a freelancer or doing anything that is required for you to be, a social media person. But what I had to convince myself of at the time was, no, you know what? I'm a business baddie. I know exactly what I'm doing. I know how to market. I know how to market myself, even though I had no formal experience with it. I had been going to school for my whole life and following, the groundwork that had been laid out for me. And so as I started to tell myself, I'm already this person, I'm good, I can learn anything that I don't actually know right now, the perfect learning opportunity will come to me so that I can learn it and I can become that person. That's how it started to unfold, as I started to come across these opportunities that allowed me to then build this life that I love. So it's just about becoming that person. And you always have the ability to become that person at any point in time. Okay. So another thing that I think really stops people from taking the reins and creating the life that they want to create is because, and I hear this from people all the time, it's like, well, my past, I can't let go of my past. Or it's like, let me think of like a really good example of this. By the way, I'm going to be talking to my amazing crew who is here behind the camera just to kind of get some inspo and get some ideas going. So if you hear me talking to somebody off camera, that's who I'm talking to. Do you guys have any experiences that in your past that make you feel like that, like limit you right now in terms of what you're able to do? Okay.
I am. And so
Okay.
I did have to
Okay, you did have to purge. You did have to let go. Okay. So this is the thing, right? Most of us are operating from a space where we're just thinking about all our trauma and all the things that have limited us in the past and all the things that have caused us pain in the past, right? I'll actually give a specific example of this. Sometimes when I talk to my mom, which, Mom, if you're listening to this, no, this is for a good reason, okay? But sometimes when I talk to my mom, I notice in her language and in the way that she's kind of framing things and thinking about things, she gets stuck on the things that happened to her early in life, and it makes her feel like she can't move forward. It's just like she just stays stuck on, the childhood trauma or the thing, all the things that you repeat in your mind of all the ways that you've been hurt before. I think because of the way your brain is wired, it's doing that to try to protect you, right? The intention is good. It's like, okay, well, this really terrible thing happened to us. We want to make sure it doesn't happen again, so we got to be as prepared as possible. But the issue with that is where awareness goes, energy flows. What you spend time thinking about, paying attention to, that expands. So when you're spending all of your energy thinking about the past and wrestling and festering over all the terrible things that happened to you, what you don't realize that you're doing is you're creating more of those experiences because that's where your energy is going every day. That's what you're creating with your energetic output, right? If we go back to what I was talking about with personality is malleable. Well, if you're the kind of person that wakes up every day and you're grumpy, that, people have wronged you in the past or whatever it is, right? Then you have this personality trait that's like filtering all of your energy into something that is not helping you at all. It's forcing you to relive all the shit that you're trying to get away from, right? So the reframe for me personally that has helped me overcome so many of those blockages of like, oh man, I can't believe that happened to me, or I can't believe that person did that to me, or I can't believe, maybe it's something really embarrassing that happened to you in the past that makes you feel like you can't develop a certain skill or become a certain type of person. What I do now is I tell myself, let me explain it this way. Before you're born, you're able to look at your entire life path, your entire life trajectory, right? Who you are, your name, your parents, your friends, your cousins, all the people that you're going to have major relationships with, every major experience you're going to have in your life. Your soul looked at that and was like, that's exactly what I need. This is the lifetime that I need right now, because it's going to give me all of the opportunities and all of the situations that will allow me to evolve as a consciousness, right? So if you think about it from that, and this is actually the basis of astrology, which we're going to get into that a little bit later in this episode. But astrology is based on the idea that you chose your birth chart, right? In your birth chart, you have a lot of things like, what are your strengths and gifts? What's your trauma? What are the things that you maybe struggle with? What are the things that are really easy for you? What is your life purpose? What are you meant to kind of become? And who were you in a past life? What are your past life masteries, right? So when you look at it from that way, if you chose your birth chart and you chose all the blockages and challenges that you've gone through, that's a very empowering way to think about it. Why? Because you chose it. There is no major thing that's happened to you that your soul wasn't aware that was going to happen in this lifetime, which I know can sound very controversial, right? When you put that in the lens of like, when we think about the people in Gaza, how would the people in Gaza have chosen to be going through something like this? But this is where it's a very, very big picture and there's a lot of nuance to it. But at the end of the day, you chose this life. You chose all the hard things that happened to you because you knew it's what you needed to grow. And every obstacle that has ever happened in your life gave you the opportunity to become a different version of yourself that is more evolved and is more capable. We hear the phrase, diamonds are formed under pressure, right? The more shit you've been through, the cooler you are as a person. I strongly believe that, right? If any of you have met somebody that's never been through really hard things, you can kind of tell. You can kind of tell. And within the first 5 minutes of meeting something, it's like, oh man, you've had it pretty easy and I can tell. Not that that's a bad thing. It's great to have an easy life, but when you have adversity, it actually works to your advantage because you become resilient. You become mentally flexible. You become forgiving, if you allow it though. And so this is where we have, you can interpret any situation in any way that you want, but is it helping you or is it harming you? And this is where you need to choose how to reframe the way that you're looking at yourself and your past. Because if you are looking at your past as something that was terrible and negative and impacting you in a negative way right now, you are giving it that kind of power. But if you take your power back and you switch it around and you say, no, you know what? I'll tell you how I apply this in my life. A lot of you know that I had struggled with a lot of like daddy issues in my life because my dad left my life very early. And that's something I grappled with for a while of like, why was I never chosen? Why was I not enough for my dad to stick around in my life? I reframed it to, you know what? My dad leaving my life early gave me the opportunity to be strong in myself, to learn how to develop a sense of self-worth that nobody can break. And that's why I am the way that I am now, right? I was able to overcome those hurdles. And that's why I'm also able to coach people and understand other people's pain. I know what it's like to feel abandoned. I know what it's like to feel unchosen. And I've gone through it. And now I can help you guys with it as well. So it's like, that's what I mean when I say it's a reframe. Pay attention to how you're looking at your past. Pay attention to how you're framing things and how you're allowing it to siphon your energy with where you're standing right now. That's a huge part of this picture, because the more you're able to free up some of that energy that you've been, dedicating to thinking about your past and your traumas and like terrible experiences, the more energy you have to put towards what? The new reality, the new identity, the version of you that you actually want to be and the life that you actually want to be living. Okay. So you chose your life path and the difficulties that came with it. The other thing that you have to understand is that a lot of us tend to look at people that are really successful and people that are living the life that you want to live. Like, think about maybe the influencers that you follow or the celebrities that you know, or like these people that you look at and you're like, my God, you put them on this crazy pedestal and you're like, look at what this person has achieved. That's like so crazy. Oh, and then you flip it on yourself and you're like, why am I not there yet? How come I haven't achieved this level of success? And you start comparing yourself and you start putting this person up here and then you put yourself down here, and it just makes you feel like shit, right? The comparison game is lethal to your self-esteem. The reframe that's important for that scenario is that everybody has a different life path, right? If we think about birth charts, you chose your life path, that person chose their life path as well. You guys are on in two completely different places. You can look at other people as inspiration of like, oh my gosh, that's so cool that they've been able to do that. I'm inspired and I want to do it in my way. That's one thing. But to look at somebody else and be like, I want to be just like that. I want to do exactly what they're doing. And I feel like shit because I haven't gotten there yet. That's a different situation, because you're assuming that you will be happy if you are living their life and you are doing it in the way that you are doing it, in the way that they're doing it. So This is the thing. You have to know and trust that everybody's life path is different. Your goal should not be to do what somebody else is doing or live this life that somebody else is living. You are here to know who you came to be, what life you came here to create, and become the highest version of that. That's the reframe, okay? I used to be the kind of person that looks at other people and people that I would see as more successful than me and just compare myself and be like, oh my God, like I should be doing that. I should be, operating at that level and I'm not. And I just feel like shit about it. Whereas now I'm like, no, you know what? I've studied my birth chart. I know exactly who I am and like what life I will make me happy and make me feel fulfilled. So I'm going to focus on that. If I see somebody else that has something that I want, rather than feel envious, I look at that as a sign for myself that my soul is trying to tell me, hey, this might be something that you want to start pursuing for yourself in your way, in the way that you're going to do it, right? And so this is why also a really big piece of this journey of being able to manifest any life that you want and become any version of yourself that you want is you have to know yourself. You have to stop looking outside of you for answers, for validation, for approval, and turn it back around and be like, no, you know what? Who am I and what life do I want to live? Right? A lot of us have been conditioned to not care about what we want to do because we're doing what we have to do or what other people expect of us. That is only going to waste your time and cause you to create a life that doesn't actually fit the mold of what you really want. In order to create the right mold, you have to know what shape you're even working with. Right? So for me personally, I can tell you off the top of my head, just from how much I've studied my birth chart, my personality test, all these tools that I use to discover myself, I can give you a really solid profile of what will actually make me happy, the things that I really want out of life, the maybe things that I struggle to do and how I'm able to kind of evolve through that. This is the thing that's really going to empower you because again, rather than looking to everybody else or looking outside of you for that frame of reference, you become the frame of reference. You become the main character. A lot of people get stuck being the side character of their own life, right? They've never really taken the time to study themselves. And this is what I think is so powerful that everybody should have like a hyperfixation era where all they can think about is wanting to like put the puzzle pieces together of who they are and who they came to be. Because if you think about it, right, really take like zoom out of this. You have specific skills for a reason. They're not random. You have specific desires for a reason. Those are also not random, right? You feel pulled to certain things because they are a part of who you are. They're part of your essence and they are your compass. They're to guide you towards, again, the life that you want and the person that you're here to be. So when you think about it in that way, right? Think about all the things that you're just really good at and haven't, really needed any formal education for it or any formal training for it. Think of the things that you naturally gravitate towards, like what topics are you super into? For me, it's psychology. You guys know that, right? I got a degree in psychology. It was like the best thing ever. I love studying about it. I love, Carl Jung and all these things. I pour myself into it and it feels really good. I just feel drawn to it, right? What are the things that, what is your psychology? What are the things that you spend time thinking about? And, the skill set that you have. I'm also really good at reading people, like all these different things. You have to pay attention to yourself, observe yourself, study yourself to the point where again, who you are and what life you really want to create. And this is why we have so many amazing tools for that. You have personality tests with psychology. You've got, human design. You've got astrology. Again, one of my favorites. And when you're able to really focus on things like your strengths and your gifts and things that you feel, again, naturally like an inclination towards or a type of person that you've always wanted to become. Where awareness goes, energy flows. When you spend time thinking about your strengths and your gifts and your talents, guess what? They're going to expand. You're going to get better at it, right? A lot of us spend a lot of time thinking about what? All your shortcomings, your flaws, your weaknesses, think about all the people that maybe you are even one of them, where you're always saying sorry all day, like with everything. Oh my gosh, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. It's like that is a sign that you lack some self-esteem because you don't focus enough on the things that make you worthy of taking up that space, right? So it's like, again, the way you want to reframe this and the way you want to use this to your advantage is spend more time thinking about your strengths and gifts. Spend more time thinking about what environments you'd be able to really thrive in, right? And this is another way I like to think about it too. Think about the different parenting styles, right? All of us obviously grew up with parents and we were raised in a certain way. You have parents that take the time to understand their children and see them and really know who they are. And then you have parents that enforce a certain identity on their child, somebody that will kind of feed their ego in a way of like, I want my kid to be a doctor. I want my kid to be a lawyer. I'm sure a lot of you listening to this can resonate with that, right? Parents that put all these expectations on you and then you're trying to fit that mold, even though it doesn't feel authentic to you. When you think about your relationship to yourself, there's a concept in psychology called parenting and like reparenting. You need to be able to reparent yourself. If you're somebody that grew up with parents that didn't take the time to see you or understand you, they just enforced this new identity that they wanted you, or this certain identity that they wanted you to embody, and it didn't feel good for you, that is a really big indicator that you need to take the time to know yourself and understand yourself, because you were never given that opportunity growing up, which is fine, right? That's actually something that I personally resonate with as well, of like, I had certain expectations. Like I was put in violin lessons as a kid and ballet from a very, very young age. Hated both of them with a tenacity. I was at these classes like 3-4 times every week. It was just like a shitstorm, not the best, right? So I had to learn how to start studying myself of, okay, what are the environments that I will actually feel really good in? Well, when I studied astrology and I studied all these different, human design and everything like that, it became very clear to me that it's like, oh, I don't work well in an environment where I'm being forced to do things in a certain way. I need freedom to exercise certain skills and talents on my own. It has to be self-directed. Even with the things I have become really knowledgeable about, it was never through school. It was always through, I picked up a book that I saw at Barnes & Noble because it just spoke to me, and I read it and boom, suddenly I picked it up just like that, right? So it's like, this is what I mean when I say you have to take the time to observe yourself, to know yourself. Yes.
Do you remember the first moment that you realized it doesn't have to be this way? Do you remember that? That would be cool for you to share.
Okay. So Arlene has just asked me if I remember the first moment where I realized it doesn't have to be this way. Like I can really just kind of do it the way I want to do it. Let me think on that. It was probably when, like if I think back to picking up there's something called human design, which it's like a system that kind of uses astrology and Kabbalah and a bunch of different things. It was when I read my chart, and it was, my profile lines are 2-5. The 2 represents I believe the hermit, which is that when you spend time by yourself and you let yourself fall into these rabbit holes, that's where you'll intuitively kind of like absorb the information, and then you'll be able to disperse it properly. And so when I read that, it kind of clicked for me of like, oh my God, I looked back at every circumstance in my life previously. And it was like, that's why when I was forced to go into a classroom setting and like memorize these lines, or like, memorize these excerpts, like write these papers, nothing would really stick. And it felt like I kept hitting like a wall. It's like my brain was like, no, I don't want to retain this information. I don't want to use it. But then it's like, I thought back to, again, okay, I looked into astrology because I was curious about it and interested in it. And I just fell into this rabbit hole for a couple weeks, came out of it knowing a crazy amount of information and being able to use it properly. So I was like, oh my God, this is like crazy, right? Like that's where everything kind of clicked for me of, oh, right. So I really can do it my way, even though everyone has told me, how are you going to, that doesn't make sense. Or I was taught that like, you got to go to school for that. You got to get my favorite, you got to get a certification. Fuck a certification. I don't need a certification, to be honest with you. I kind of know what I'm doing. I know that might come off as a little bit arrogant, but like, this is where it's so liberating, right? You get so much freedom out of not needing somebody else to tell you how you're going to do a certain thing. And this is where, when you study your birth chart, you study, any tool that really speaks to you, you really get a solid idea of what you're already good at, where you don't need other people to give you the roadmap. You don't need other people to tell you how to do it. You're following the flow of what's already inside of you. You have an entire roadmap inside of you, you guys. I'm not kidding. It's like a blueprint of what your ideal life would be, which means you already have the ability inside of you to create it. Every time you look at somebody and you maybe, like, again, going back to the whole, there's celebrities that you admire, there's influencers that you really like, oh my God, it's so cool that they're able to do this. The only reason you are able to admire that trait and even notice it is because you already have it in you. It's just waiting to be expressed. It's waiting to have permission to come out. It's like, think of it like colors. The only reason I'm able to identify the color red is because I have the receptors in my eyes and brain to see the color red. You are only able to admire people's qualities because you already have them. So rather than be jealous or feel defeated or feel like inferior, no, you need to use this to your advantage. Okay, I've admired this in somebody else. Clearly, I already have it. I just need to unleash it a little bit. I need to get into the habit of pouring energy and pouring awareness into this skill that I already have. And that's how you allow it to kind of grow and take shape. So, you guys, I've been yapping for a hot minute. This is kind of crazy. I don't want this episode to go too long. Maybe we'll have to split this up into another one. But you guys know how I feel as a coach about wanting to give you guys the tools and the resources to apply what you're learning, because I don't want you to feel like I'm leaving you hanging, right? Something I think all of you should do if you are interested in learning about astrology and your birth chart and these strengths and weaknesses and the traumas that you chose. There's an app that I use. I'm also partnered with them. They're called Astra. It's an AI astrology app. They are phenomenal in terms of making it really simple and really easy for beginners to be able to pull up their birth chart and learn about it without having to do it manually. Because I'm sure a lot of you know, if you've ever tried looking into astrology yourself, very complex, very nuanced. You've got houses, signs, aspects, placements, the whole nine. And I do get a lot of questions from you guys, especially in my DMs. I get a lot of DMs on Instagram being like, I want to learn more about my birth chart. How do I do that? I'm going to give you the 411, sister. I'm going to give you literally the one tool that's going to make it very simple for you to at least get your feet wet. Again, it's Astra. And I actually have a code. I'm going to put it in the description for you guys, or a link actually, that's going to take you to the App Store, and it's going to give you 4 weeks free. So a 1 month free trial for you to be able to use this AI app to your, leisure without having to pay for it. After those 4 weeks are over, then it's like $19.99 a month. So what you're going to want to do, and we're going to walk through this together so it's really simple for you guys. But you're going to download the Astra app through the link that I'm going to put for you guys below. And then you're going to go through all the prompts, and then it's going to say get set up. Okay. Once it says get set up, you're going to have to know a few different things. You need to know your birth time, your birth location, like the city, and the birth date. Okay. So for me, it's February 20th, 1999, 7:15 p.m. Fayetteville, North Carolina. You just have to know the city. It's going to ask you for your first name. You just start with that. Okay. My birthday is February 20th, 1999. And then exact time, that would be 7:15. If you don't know the time, that's totally okay. You can actually skip that. You're not going to have as much information, but you'll have what you need. So it'll be okay. You can also ask your mom if you don't know, or check your birth certificate. It should be on there as well. You just need a time that's within 2 hours. So if it's not exact, that's okay. But just like an estimate within 2 hours and you should be good. So I put 7:15. Now the city I was born in, we're going to type that in. If you can't find the city for whatever reason, just choose the major city that's near it. That's also fine. It doesn't have to be too exact. Okay, so are you ready to find answers? Hell yeah, I am. Let's get into it, Pooskies. Okay, I'm ready to meet Astra. So now that you have done that, you will now be able to ask it questions. You can go to the Ask Me Anything piece. And there's going to be certain prompts. I'm going to give you exact prompts in the description. But basically what I'm going to encourage you guys to do is I actually have written out a plan for you guys because I know how much you love the Limitless Challenge of the Week, where you integrate everything you've learned. So for the Limitless Challenge of the Week this week, for this episode, is for the next 4 weeks, you're going to use the hell out of this free trial, okay? There's 4 things that I want you guys to look at in the context of your birth chart to become a literal expert at knowing who you are, okay? First thing is going to be your North Node placement and your South Node placement. Brief crash course. South Node is your past life. It's who you were in a past life, what you have already mastered in a past life, the things that you're kind of bored of, you've already been there, done that. And your North Node is the opposite. It's like unfamiliar territory. You might feel a little obsessed with it or really excited about it, but it is unfamiliar, so it can feel a little bit uncomfortable. But the more you lean into those qualities and themes, the more you're going to experience a lot of expansion. So those are 2 really, again, North Node and South Node, the sign and the house. So you're going to ask Astra about your North and South Node placement. Again, I'm going to put the exact prompts for you guys below so you can just copy and paste. You don't have to do any thinking. But that's going to be 2 really important pieces of your birth chart that you're going to want to really take a look into. Second one is going to be, let's talk about your trauma, babe. Let's talk about all the difficult things that you chose to experience in this life. And that's going to be what your Saturn is. Saturn is the planet of discipline, karma, challenges, obstacles, delays. So you're going to ask about your Saturn sign and the house that it's in, and also possible difficult aspects. So if Saturn is interacting with another part of your chart that's kind of creating tension or difficulties, you'll want to know about that too. Again, we'll put all the prompts for you below, but that's going to give you some insight as to what kind of challenges you signed up for in this lifetime. Third one, exalted placements and debilitated placements, right? What are the parts of your chart that naturally have a lot of magic to them, where it's really easy, you know, it's like a strong suit, versus your debilitated placements, which is where certain signs don't feel very comfortable in those like planets. And that might be a little bit of difficulty that it creates for you, or things that you feel like are kind of an obstacle, just like hard for you to master. And then the fourth is going to be your highest degree planet, which is like kind of your sole purpose, the things that you are really good at that you're meant to be doing a lot more of. And that can give you a lot of context as to maybe what your dream career would be, or what kind of qualities your dream career would entail. So I would every week for the next 4 weeks, dedicate a day, like you can decide what day it is, use your intuition, right? And you're going to actually take the time to ask it these prompts. If there's anything you don't understand that you want to understand a little bit better, ask it. It's an AI app. You can type whatever you want in there. If something isn't really making sense to you, ask it to elaborate further or explain it to you like you're a 5-year-old. This is a really, really, really useful tool. You just have to know how to leverage it properly. So I want you to basically take this next 4 weeks to become an expert at studying yourself and knowing who you are, and taking what resonates and leaving what doesn't. Because there might be some things that you read where it's like, I don't really see that. You can leave that. Take everything with a grain of salt. But the main thing is to use this as a source of reference and inspiration to kind of figure out what the parameters are of who you are and what you kind of came here to experience. And so again, every week you've got the 4 sections I just gave you. Really pick one and go like dive headfirst into that. Let yourself fall into that rabbit hole. Research it as much as you can until you get a really solid profile of, oh my gosh, this makes so much sense. This is why I am the way that I am. This is why I do things the way that I do things. And it could also give you a lot of confidence to pursue something that maybe you thought you couldn't or you weren't really meant to. So that is your Limitless Challenge of the week, you guys. I have everything. I'm going to link it for you below. I also would love it if you guys can let me know if you enjoyed this episode, if you found it enlightening in any way. Let me know. Send me a DM or leave a comment. If you're watching this on Spotify, I believe there's a way to kind of leave some comments on YouTube as well if you're watching the video version of this. Let me know. Give me some feedback. Let me know if you want another solo episode to come up soon. Let me know if you want any specific tools or topics you want me to go through, and we'll work from there. You can also send me a DM on Instagram. If you want to give me anything like super extensive. But that's kind of all I have for you guys this week or for this episode. Thank you so much for tuning in. I love you all so much. I hope you enjoyed this episode. And don't forget to follow Limitless with Nadia on Instagram, TikTok. I'm trying to think if there's anything else. I don't think so. I love you, Pooskies. I'll see you next time. Bye.